Dear finance professionals and students, welcome to podcast of FCA Deepak Rao, a practicing chartered accountant. Weekly digest for week 2 of April 2026. Despite an overall slowdown in entry-level ITES hiring, the class of 2026 at several of the country's private engineering colleges is seeing a better than expected placement season with more offers than last year. TCS and Infosys have recruited in good numbers, but mostly for AI roles where students will be deployed after initial training. The Reserve Bank of India is expected to hold interest rates steady at its upcoming meeting. Global conflicts are creating significant economic uncertainty. Rising imported inflation and potential domestic price pressures are key concerns. The central bank will likely focus on managing liquidity and market stability. This cautious approach aims to navigate geopolitical risks and currency volatility. India's gold imports saw a significant rise of 28.73%, reaching $69 billion in the first 11 months of fiscal 2025-26. This surge, attributed to elevated gold prices, has contributed to a wider trade deficit. Switzerland remains the primary source for these imports. The increased gold imports also impact the country's current account deficit. FMCG companies like Marico and Dabur saw strong revenue growth in the March quarter. Domestic consumption remained steady, boosting sales. International business also performed well, except in the Middle East due to geopolitical issues. Companies expect better margins as input costs ease. They anticipate continued domestic demand recovery in the coming quarters. China's ongoing economic slowdown is leaving a growing number of workers grappling with shrinking incomes, limited job prospects, and rising uncertainty about the future. Across both major cities and smaller regions, people describe a downturn marked by layoffs, business closures, and weakening private enterprise activity. Spending cuts have impacted routine administrative functions, while infrastructure projects remain stalled. Small businesses are also under pressure, with shuttered shops and delayed factory reopenings becoming more common. The Indian TV market is experiencing rising costs and a potential dip in sales. Manufacturers are seeing consumers opt for smaller screen sizes. While attractive financing options are helping, some buyers are also delaying purchases. A recovery is anticipated during the festive season. Premium segments are expected to remain resilient. National Stock Exchange will launch exchange-traded derivatives based on Platts oil price benchmarks through a collaboration with S&P Global Energy. The move comes as India's market regulator pushes to deepen commodity derivatives markets and attract greater institutional participation, including in metals and energy contracts. The products will offer tools for price discovery and risk management to refiners, importers, traders, financial institutions, and investors seeking exposure to global Brent crude prices in a regulated domestic market. India's services sector saw its slowest growth in 14 months during March. This slowdown was influenced by the Middle East conflict affecting domestic demand. However, overseas orders reached near record levels. Input costs intensified significantly. Despite these challenges, employment expanded and business confidence reached a 12-year high. The overall economic expansion slowed. Oil refineries are pushing back their scheduled maintenance work. This decision has been made to ensure they can keep up with the country's high demand for fuel. The government has confirmed that these postponements are happening to prioritize meeting local needs. Tax Department has rolled out updated ITR forms for financial year 2025-26, introducing tighter disclosure norms while keeping the overall structure unchanged. The changes focus on greater transparency, especially around political donations, F&O trading, and digital payments, while adding minor conveniences like a secondary address field. The Reserve Bank on Monday said the investment limit for foreign portfolio investors in government securities through the general route will remain unchanged at 6% of the outstanding stocks of securities for 2026-27. Also, the allocation of incremental changes in the government security limit in absolute terms over the two subcategories, general and long term, has been retained at 50-50 for 2026-27. State government securities and corporate bonds also have their investment limits unchanged. An additional limit of over 3.30 lakh crore is set for 2026-27. Tata Trust is in the spotlight as CEO Siddharth Sharma demands the resignation of Vice Chairman Venu Srinivasan and Vijay Singh. The two members assert that Sharma did not disclose a vital legal assessment from ex-CJI M.H. Kania related to eligibility criteria. While Srinivasan has resigned, Singh is yet to follow suit. A ceasefire has been agreed between the US and Iran. President Trump announced a 2-week suspension of attacks on Iran. This follows a 6-week conflict. Pakistan's Prime Minister Sharif and Field Marshal Munir mediated the agreement. Iran has accepted a 10-point peace plan. The Strait of Hormuz must be opened safely. This marks a significant step towards de-escalation. Digital lending firm Credit B has raised $280 million, becoming a unicorn with a $1.5 billion valuation. This funding marks their last private round before a planned public listing. The company is awaiting regulatory approval for its initial public offering. Credit B has expanded its offerings and is investing in new technology. India has achieved significant milestone in its nuclear program. The indigenously designed prototype fast breeder reactor at Kalpakam has successfully attained criticality. This marks a crucial step towards generating power and producing its own nuclear fuel. The reactor is designed to produce more fuel than it consumes. India's digital commerce is set for massive growth, reaching $250 billion by 2030. Quick commerce will expand significantly, becoming a norm for shoppers. Gen Z consumers will drive a large portion of online spending. AI will streamline shopping experiences and boost profitability. Content creators will also influence a substantial amount of retail expenditure. Indian car manufacturers are gaining ground in the domestic market. Tata Motors and Mahindra have seen their market share rise significantly. This shift is driven by a focus on SUVs and electric vehicles. Foreign competitors, particularly Korean and European firms, have ceded market share. Japanese automakers, despite Maruti Suzuki's leadership, are also experiencing changes. Indian students are diversifying study abroad destinations beyond the US, UK, Canada, and Australia due to stricter visa rules, rising costs, and uncertain job prospects. Countries like Ireland, New Zealand, and parts of Europe are gaining traction as students adopt a more calculated approach to their international education decisions. International airfares are soaring, impacting summer travel plans. Industry experts predict a significant drop in demand due to higher ticket prices and global uncertainties. Travelers are already cancelling trips to destinations like Vietnam and Azerbaijan. Airlines face increased operational costs with fuel surcharges rising. The impact on the peak summer season remains to be seen as demand is closely monitored. CEOs express cautious optimism following the US-Iran ceasefire, anticipating a consumer sentiment boost after a month of geopolitical uncertainty. While markets rallied and oil prices dropped, they cautioned that supply chain disruptions, LPG shortages, and labor migration will take time to normalize, with inflationary pressures persisting. A ceasefire between the United States and Iran offers hope for Middle East peace and rebuilding. Indian construction and EPC companies are poised to benefit from massive reconstruction projects. Companies like L&T, KPIL, and KEC International have significant exposure to the region. Damage to energy assets across 9 countries will require extensive repairs and new infrastructure development. Vietnam's Vin Group will invest $8.5 billion in Maharashtra over the next 2 years. CM Devendra Fadnavis said, projects will focus on electric mobility, smart townships and public infrastructure. This significant investment aims to create nearly 24,700 jobs. The state government has assured full support for these development initiatives. Japan's MUFG Bank has acquired a 20% stake in Shriram Finance Limited for Rs 39,618 crore, marking the largest cross-border investment in India's financial services sector. This strategic collaboration aims to leverage MUFG's global expertise to accelerate SFL's growth and enhance financial inclusion in India. Walt Disney is set to lay off as many as 1,000 employees in the coming weeks. Many of these job cuts will impact the company's marketing department. This move is part of a broader plan to reduce expenses. The initiative, codenamed Project Imagine, aims to streamline marketing operations. The layoffs represent less than 1% of Disney's total workforce. Luxury car sales in India saw a modest 3% rise in the March quarter, with around 14,000 vehicles over Rs 40 lakhs sold. This growth lagged behind the mainstream market as affluent buyers conserved cash due to geopolitical worries and economic uncertainties. BMW, however, reported a strong 17% increase in its sales. Amazon is preparing to pull back from a key layer of its grocery delivery stack in India as the company leans harder into speed. It is planning to wind down its 4 to 24-hour delivery service, Amazon Fresh, in 10 to 15 major cities as it shifts focus to its quick commerce offering, Amazon Now. The move signals a broader recalibration underway inside Amazon's India business, where the middle ground between scheduled and instant delivery is rapidly disappearing. Nearly 40% of online grocery sales in India now come from quick commerce, up sharply over the past few years, underscoring how quickly the model has scaled. US-Iran ceasefire. A fragile 2-week ceasefire between the US and Iran is faltering due to deep ambiguities over its scope and enforcement. Conflicting claims regarding Lebanon and the Strait of Hormuz, alongside continued military actions, have undermined confidence. As delegations meet in Islamabad, the gap between the agreement and reality widens, leaving a contested ceasefire on the ground. Tata Motors is boosting its global presence after a successful financial year 26 and business split. The company is integrating its passenger car division with Jaguar Land Rover to find new efficiencies. Strong domestic sales in passenger and commercial vehicles are driving this growth. Tata Motors is also looking at acquiring Iveco to become a top global commercial vehicle maker. Demand for term insurance among non-resident Indians has doubled in 2 years, with a 35% month-on-month surge following West Asian tensions. Younger NRIs, aged 25 to 35, now dominate demand, prioritizing financial protection for families in India amidst global uncertainties. Digital processes and lower costs are driving this trend. The Reserve Bank of India, or RBI, in its latest Monetary Policy Committee or NPC meeting, kept key policy rates unchanged and maintained a neutral stance. Experts ruled out scope for a rate hike in the near term and believe the RBI could be focusing on steps to support growth. For financial year 27, the RBI projected a growth rate of 6.9%, supported by expansion in manufacturing and services. However, the governor, Sanjay Malhotra, cautioned that supply risks, especially from elevated oil, could impact other essential commodities like fertilizers. Despite these challenges, Malhotra assured that the Indian economy remains resilient to supply shocks. Smartphone segment in India is seeing positive outlook even though the ongoing West Asia crisis has affected several other sectors, an Oppo India executive said. Head of communication at Oppo India said that the outlook looks promising at the moment and the war does not seem to be having an impact. Company is optimistic about the sales as there are lots of schemes like buybacks and cashbacks. The average selling price of a smartphone in India, which was earlier Rs 15,000, has risen to Rs 30,000 in 2026, he added. The International Financial Services Centres Authority, or IFSCA, has notified the IFSCA Pension Fund Regulations 2026, establishing a comprehensive framework for the registration, regulation, and supervision of pension funds in IFSC. No entity can act as a pension fund unless it obtains a certificate of registration from IFSCA. Applications must be submitted through the SWIT portal. The application must be accompanied by prescribed fees and documentation. India-Bangladesh relations. After navigating through diplomatic hurdles, India and Bangladesh are now on a path to rejuvenate their partnership. Recent high-level discussions have emphasized key areas like energy trade, simplifying visa regulations, and enhancing security alliances. Bangladesh's increasing demand for diesel and fertilizer from India has set the stage for cooperative initiatives. The Reserve Bank on Friday proposed changes in the criteria for identifying upper-layer non-banking finance companies, or NBFCs, pitching for an asset size-based approach as against the earlier parametric system, and inclusion of state-run entities. With a view to adopt a transparent, simple and absolute criteria for identification of NBFC upper layer, it is proposed to replace the existing methodology with asset size criteria, which is currently proposed as rupees 1 lakh crore and above, the draft put on the RBI website said. Sun Pharmaceutical Industries is nearing a $12 billion acquisition of Organon & Co., marking its most significant overseas expansion. Following extensive due diligence, Sun is finalizing financing for the all-cash offer, aiming to bolster its position in branded and innovative drugs. This move signifies a strategic shift for the Indian pharma giant. India's household gold holdings are now the world's largest, surpassing central bank reserves. ASSOCHAM said that channeling even a small portion into financial assets could add trillions to India's GDP by 2047. This move would strengthen manufacturing, infrastructure and agriculture, boosting the economy through increased consumption and job creation. One of the key highlights of the TCS Q4 financial year 26 results was the sequential growth momentum and the big jump in annualized AI revenue. It has now crossed $2.3 billion in Q4 of financial year 26, with the company highlighting AI as one of the significant factors that is at the center of its growth strategy. The company also announced that they have filed 1,833 patents for AI-led inventions, out of which 573 patents have been granted. According to the company, AI is increasingly becoming a core layer across its service offerings rather than a standalone segment. The Goods and Services Tax Network, or GSTN, has released the IMS Offline Utility version 1. This Excel-based tool allows taxpayers to conveniently take action of the IMS Invoice Management System dashboard without requiring continuous internet access. The newly launched utility is expected to significantly benefit taxpayers dealing with large volumes of data, offering flexibility and efficiency in handling IMS-related tasks offline.
This podcast is sponsored by Sound of CA. We share because we care. Vande Mataram, Jai Hind.